What is good in the neighborhood? What's up, YouTube? This is going on our stream channel. Check this out, man. The Music Recording Network stream. Before we get started, real quick, is this it right here? Yeah. Y'all check out our new channel, man. Police Beatdown. Police Beatdown. It's a faceless channel. And if you like all them body cams and police chasing and all that type of stuff, this joint right here is going to blow up, and we are pushing this channel as hard as we can. So Police Beatdown, we got plenty of videos up there now and plenty more to come. Check this out, man. I don't know too much about this situation. YNW, Bortlen's new plea deal against YNW Melly changes everything. He got a new plea deal coming out, man. So I'm going to get into this, man, and see what's going on. Y'all hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell. I don't know. Let's check this bad boy out.
He is telling me that they're extending an offer to you, and the offer is as follows. In case number 19-1871-CF10A, they're going to null process or drop counts 1 and 2, both first-degree murder charges.
YNW Bortlen was just handed a shocking plea deal that could flip his entire future. But this deal of the century didn't come free. By saving himself, Bortlen may have set the stage for Melly's downfall. Reports say he's already revealing chilling details about the night that landed them behind bars. Let me break it down. The deal that shook the whole hood. September 9th, 2025 was the day that changed everything in the streets and the hip-hop game forever. The day when one of the realest loyalty tests in rap history got put to the ultimate test. YNW Bortlen, the homie who was supposed to ride or die with his day one YNW Melly, took a plea deal that had the whole hood talking. We're talking about going from facing multiple life sentences to getting just 10 years plus probation. That's the kind of deal that makes street rappers think twice about everything they thought they knew about loyalty. Real talk. To understand why this move got everybody in their feelings, we got to go back to where it all started. This whole situation been brewing for over 6 years now, ever since October 26, 2018, when Anthony YNW Sack Chaser Williams and Christopher YNW Juvie Thomas Jr. got their lives cut short in what was supposed to be their prime time. These wasn't just some random dudes. These was real ones from the crew, young kings who came up with Melly and Bortlen in them rough-ass streets of Gifford, Florida. That YNW family was tight like blood, or at least that's what everybody thought before all this drama went down. The feds in the state been painting this picture from day one, and it's ugly as hell. They saying Melly straight up executed Sack Chaser and Juvie from inside the whip while Bortlen was behind the wheel. Then both these dudes conspired to make it look like a drive-by to throw the police off their scent. According to the boys in blue, Bortlen pulled up to Memorial Hospital Miramar around 4:35 in the morning, acting all frantic and stuff, claiming some unknown shooters just sprayed the car up in a drive-by. But here's where the whole script got flipped on these boys. The forensic evidence wasn't matching up with that drive-by story they was trying to sell. The ballistics and autopsy reports were showing that them fatal shots came from inside the vehicle. Close range type nonsense with powder burns and all that CSI evidence. They found a .40 caliber shell casing inside the Jeep, which completely dead that drive-by crap they was pushing. The most damning part, they found 8 more matching casings somewhere else, which told the whole story. These street gangsters staged the whole damn scene. The pressure was mounting on Bortlen something serious over the years. When they first got hemmed up in February 2019, he was looking at 2 first-degree murder charges and 2 accessory after-the-fact charges, which in Florida means you ain't never seeing the streets again. Then the state really started playing hardball, adding witness tampering charges in October 2023 when they caught him trying to influence testimony and keeping detailed notes on jurors from Melly's first trial. That's some next-level street code violation type stuff right there. When September 4th, 2025 rolled around, the courtroom was tense as hell. Judge Martin S. Fine wasn't playing no games when he laid out exactly what Bortlen was facing. This wasn't no regular traffic stop. This was about whether a young black man would spend the rest of his natural life in a cage.
As to all the charges that you're facing, the maximum possible penalties are as follows. It's life in Florida State Prison, followed by 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 75 years in Florida State Prison.
Dang.
Do you understand the charges and the maximum possible penalties involved?
Damn, when the judge broke it down like that, it hit different. 5 life sentences plus 75 years. That's some apocalypse level punishment that basically means they was trying to bury this man under the jail.
And how old is this guy? Oh my God, y'all. I'm telling you, man, y'all better think twice about them
It's the
streets.
type of number that makes even the hardest street soldiers think about their mama and their future kids. But then the state threw him a lifeline that probably saved his whole bloodline. The commentary was real about how significant this offer was.
If you don't accept it, and one of these trials doesn't go your way, and you end up with life in Florida State Prison, which is a mandatory sentence.
The state just offered YNW Bortlen the deal of a century. This could change Melly's trial completely.
The prosecutors came with an offer that was so generous, it had lawyers scratching their heads. They would drop both first-degree murder charges, which carry mandatory life sentences, if he copped out to 6 lesser charges. We talking accessory after the fact, witness tampering, conspiracy, gang charges, and some communication device violations. That's still serious time, but compared to life, that's like trading a death sentence for a college degree. The numbers on this plea deal were looking real different from what a man facing life was expecting. Instead of dying in prison, Bortlen was looking at 10 years plus 6 years of probation, with all his sentences running at the same time. Plus, he was getting credit for the 6 years he already did, since they locked him up in February 2019. We talking about a young man who could potentially walk free in his early 30s instead of becoming another casualty of the prison industrial complex. The investigation had already exposed major problems with Bortlen's story about where this alleged drive-by went down. Detective Moretti broke down how they tried to verify his account.
But the biggest issue, we did not know where this crime occurred. When it initially started off, we didn't even think that this even occurred in our city. We didn't have a crime scene. What we were being told where this occurred, we received no phone calls of shots being fired. There was no spent casings, no glass on the road. There was no indication that any crime occurred anywhere in Miramar that day.
Judge Fine made it crystal clear that this wasn't about him trying to pressure anybody. This was strictly business between the defense, prosecution, and defendant. The way he handled it showed he understood the gravity of the situation. The judge put Bortlen under oath and grilled him about his education level, mental state, and whether he really understood what was at stake. This wasn't just courtroom procedure. This was about making sure that years later, Bortlen couldn't come back claiming he didn't know what he was agreeing to.
All right, so Mr. Henry, listen, I'm going to put you under oath and ask you some questions, okay? It's only going to be as it relates to the state's offer, and it's only as to make sure that you understand the state's offer and you understand the charges that you're facing here. We're not going to talk about anything else.
Bortlen's defense team had been fighting uphill for a minute. On September 5th, 2025, Judge Fine denied their motion to suppress crucial evidence, surveillance footage, hospital interviews, and communications. That ruling meant the prosecution could present their most damaging evidence at trial, making conviction on the original charges almost inevitable. The judge broke down exactly what type of charges Bortlen was facing, and those numbers were looking scary as hell.
1 and 2 is murder in the first degree with a firearm. Those are capital felonies, which means it's a mandatory life sentence. If the jury convicts you of count 1 or count 2 as charged, that's life in Florida State Prison. I have no discretion.
The clock was ticking real loud as September 9th got closer. Bortlen had until that deadline to take the deal, or else jury selection for his trial was starting the next day. Judge Fine made it clear. No extensions, no do-overs. This was it. When the judge explained the details of the plea offer, you could feel the weight of that moment.
So, Mr. Henry, the state is telling me that they're extending an offer to you, and the offer is as follows. In case number 19-1871-CF10A, they're going to null process or drop counts 1 and 2, both first-degree murder charges. Okay, and in exchange for that, as to counts 3 and 4, in that case, the accessory after the fact to murder in the first degree, you're going to plead no contest to both of those.
The mental pressure on a young man in this situation had to be unreal. Here's somebody who was barely out his teens when this stuff happened, now having to choose between possibly dying in prison or accepting a punishment that would still eat up a decade of his life. The streets and social media was divided. Some people was telling him to take the deal because in 16 years, Bortlen will still be a young man and could rebuild his life. Judge Fine wanted to make sure this decision was made with a clear head and understanding of what was really at stake.
Mr. Henry, do you understand the offer that the state is making to you? Okay, the 16 years, 3 months, a shade more. So I'm going to pause on it at this point, Mr. Henry. It's going to give you some time, whether that be tonight or also over the weekend, to talk to your lawyers about it, make sure they answer all your questions, talk to your family about it so you can make a decision as to what you want to do.
The judge emphasized that this whole process had to be fair and that Bortlen needed to make this choice without any pressure from the court.
The reason I'm doing this is because I want the record to be clear what the state's offer was, and the record to be clear that you understood it and that you had enough time to talk to your lawyers about it. You had enough time to talk to your family about it. You weren't under any pressure to make a decision, whatever you thought was in your best interest. because it goes kind of like this.
As those final hours ticked down, the whole hip-hop world was watching and waiting. Legal experts was debating whether Bortlen would stay solid with his day one homie Melly or make the decision that would save his own life. The hip-hop community, which had been riding with the #Free YNW Melly movement, was holding their breath. Then September 9th, 2025 came, and the decision was made. Cortland YNW Bortlen Henry walked into that Broward County courthouse and took that plea deal. He pled no contest to them 6 charges, trading what could have been multiple life sentences for a chance to see freedom again before he turned 35. But that wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning of a whole new chapter. Part of his plea deal included what they call a proffer, basically him spilling everything he knew about what went down to the prosecutors. His lawyer said he wouldn't have to testify against Melly in court, but that proffer could still give prosecutors the inside information they needed for Melly's retrial. The reaction on social media was immediate and divided as hell. Posts on Twitter and Instagram started speculating that Bortlen's plea basically confirms that murders went down and that Melly was involved, which could seriously damage Melly's defense. Some fans was calling Bortlen a snitch, while others was saying he made the smart move given how much evidence was stacked against him. How Bortlen's move affects Melly's future. The second Bortlen signed those papers, the whole game changed for Melly in ways that's about to shake up everything we thought we knew about this case. What started as a case built on forensics and circumstantial evidence just got a potential insider witness, the one rapper who was supposedly right there when everything went sideways. To really understand how messed up this situation just got for Melly, we gotta look at where he was already at before his homie made this move. Jamel Demons, better known to the world as YNW Melly, has been locked down in Broward County Jail since February 13th, 2019. That's over 2,387 days by the time his retrial is supposed to start in January 2027. The young king is facing 2 first-degree premeditated murder charges, and with Florida's new death penalty law, they only need 8 out of 12 jurors to send him to death row. That's some cold-blooded mathematics right there. When they tried Melly the first time in 2023, that mess ended in a mistrial with 9 out of 12 jurors wanting to convict him on lesser manslaughter charges. The prosecution had already put together a strong case that was looking real problematic for Melly's defense team. Legal experts was breaking down the significance of this case and what the prosecution was really trying to prove.
How you feel out here, living out here?
Jurors hear from YNW Melly and the 2 friends he's accused of killing.
We were talking about that jump back in the day.
Their case was built on forensic evidence showing the shots came from inside the whip, surveillance footage proving all 4 rappers was in the Jeep together, and that potentially damaging Instagram message where Melly allegedly said, "I did that." Shh. When asked about the murders. Experts examining the case explained how the defense was going to have to counter the prosecution's narrative. But now that Bortlen done flipped, Melly's new legal team, led by Drew Finling, who've been defending major players in the hip-hop game, got some serious problems to deal with. The biggest headache they're facing right now is what we calling the snitch situation. The main thing Melly's defense got to worry about is what Bortlen told the prosecutors in that proffer, basically him spilling all the tea about what really went down. Attorney John Phillips, who's representing one of the victims' families in a civil case, already confirmed on social media that Bortlen is talking and sharing information with the authorities. Even though Bortlen's lawyer said he don't have to testify against Melly in court, that proffer could still be used by prosecutors in multiple ways. It could back up evidence they already got, fill in timeline gaps, or give insight into what these boys was thinking before, during, and after the alleged murders. Think about the street politics of this situation. Melly's defense had been arguing that he wasn't even in the car when the shooting happened, or that if he was there, it was a real drive-by by some unknown shooters. They even tried to suggest that Bortlen might have been the one doing the shooting, pointing to gunpowder residue on his hands and his suspect behavior at the hospital. But Bortlen copping out to accessory after the fact charges basically confirms that a murder went down and he helped cover it up. By admitting guilt to charges about helping hide a murder, Bortlen just validated that some premeditated killing took place and he was part of concealing that mess. Legal analysts broke down the trajectory evidence that was pointing to a specific shooter location. The prosecution been saying from jump that Melly was the triggerman who shot them boys from inside the Jeep, with Bortlen as the driver who helped stage the whole scene. Bortlen's plea basically validates half their theory, confirming that a staged cover-up definitely happened. Analysts examined the relationship dynamics that might have led to the alleged crimes, noting the complexity of friendships under pressure. But the prosecution had uncovered evidence of growing beef within the crew, which they argued showed motive for the killings.
Oh yeah. And I meant to tell you all, I told you before, we went to Cali, that me and Judy, CEO, Peso, the artist, cause you be moving on this music just cause you pop ain't fitting be looking confused all my life. Y'all really, my artists, you ain't doing that part right.
This gives prosecutors a much stronger foundation to argue that if Bortlen was helping cover up murders, then somebody definitely committed them murders, and according to all their evidence, that somebody was Melly. This situation also affects the civil cases that the victims' families filed against both defendants. In civil court, where they only need a preponderance of evidence instead of proof beyond reasonable doubt, Bortlen's admissions and potential testimony could be devastating. Text message evidence showed escalating tensions, particularly involving Melly's mother and money issues.
I'm good. It's just somebody telling me y'all up to something. You don't owe me nothing. We is the same person. But how you let this keep going this far? What if it was the other way around? My mom wouldn't be doing no like this.
These communications revealed serious conflict within what was supposed to be a tight crew. Phillips already requested Bortlen's deposition in the civil case, which means his information going to be used to try to get money damages from Melly. Even if Melly somehow beats the criminal charges, a civil judgment could take all his money from music royalties and future projects. The situation gets even more complicated when we factor in the witness tampering charges that both Melly and Bortlen was facing. Bortlen copping out to 2 witness tampering charges suggests these rappers was coordinating to obstruct justice, which could implicate Melly in these schemes. The discovery of detailed jury box drawings at Bortlen's crib during his 2023 arrest raised serious questions about trying to intimidate or influence jurors. But perhaps the most damaging stuff was surveillance footage that surfaced, showing both defendants in a completely different light just hours after the alleged murders went down. This footage raised real questions about how these rappers was acting in the immediate aftermath of the alleged crimes, giving prosecutors some powerful visual evidence to show jurors.
I think that if this was a planned video shoot, and included the whole group, 2 of which are now dead, they probably should have canceled it or would have postponed it at least. So you do think it is kind of odd a little bit, but I don't think for me, it's not like an oh my God moment.
These tampering allegations paint a picture of young boys who was willing to go to extreme lengths to avoid conviction. If they was innocent, the prosecution gonna argue why they need to engage in all these elaborate schemes to influence witnesses and jurors. The most scary part for Melly is that Bortlen's plea could increase the chances of prosecutors successfully arguing for the death penalty. Under Florida's non-unanimous death penalty law, prosecutors only need to convince 8 out of 12 jurors that aggravating factors justify execution. Bortlen's admission could help establish these aggravating factors, like the premeditated nature of the crime and the defendant's attempts to cover it up. The prosecution already listed 4 aggravating factors for seeking the death penalty. The murders was for money, was heinous and cruel, was premeditated, and involved Melly's alleged gang membership. Bortlen's cooperation could provide additional evidence to support each of these factors, making the death penalty recommendation more likely if Melly gets convicted. Melly's new legal squad, led by experienced defense attorney Drew Findling, who'd been defending major players in the hip-hop game like Cardi B and Lil Durk, ain't completely out of options. They could challenge whether Bortlen's proffer can even be used in court, arguing that it was given under pressure to avoid a life sentence and therefore ain't credible. They might also argue that Bortlen's plea deal creates inconsistencies in the prosecution's story, potentially undermining their whole case. The defense could also use the fact that Bortlen don't have to testify in court, limiting how prosecutors can present his information directly to jurors. Without Bortlen's live testimony that can be cross-examined, any information from his proffer might be considered hearsay and potentially inadmissible. But these defensive strategies facing serious challenges. The timing of Bortlen's plea is strategically beneficial for prosecutors. By resolving his case before Melly's retrial, they can now focus all their resources and attention on securing a conviction against the alleged triggerman. This concentration of prosecutorial power, combined with the additional evidence from Bortlen's proffer, could prove devastating for Melly's defense team. The ripple effects of Bortlen's decision extend way beyond the courtroom. Posts on social media platforms started speculating that Bortlen's plea basically confirms that Melly was involved in the murders, potentially turning public opinion against the rapper. Some fans labeled Bortlen a snitch for agreeing to cooperate with prosecutors, while others viewed his decision as a smart move given how much evidence was stacked against him. The bigger picture and what's next for the culture. The shockwaves from YNW Bortlen's plea deal ain't just hitting some courthouse in Florida. This mess is reverberating through the entire hip-hop culture, from the streets to the boardrooms, and it's about to change how we think about loyalty, survival, and what it really means to keep it real when your back is against the wall. But to really understand the full impact of what just went down, we need to examine not just what happened, but what this means for the future of both these brothers, whose destinies been forever linked by the events of October 26, 2018. The legal scholars and street observers who've been following this case closely recognize that we witnessing something that goes way beyond typical criminal proceedings.
Now look, today we've got some wild updates from the YNW Melly case. But this time, the spotlight isn't on Melly. It's on his right-hand man, YNW Bortlen. Reports are coming out that Bortlen has been offered a shocking plea deal. And depending on how this plays out, this can change the entire direction of this case.
The immediate consequences for both defendants are life-altering in ways that go beyond just prison time. For Bortlen, who potentially going to be back on the streets in his early 30s after doing approximately 10 years total, the plea deal represents a second chance at life and rebuilding. But that freedom comes with serious strings attached that going to shape every aspect of his life after he gets out. The 6 years of probation following his prison time going to impose restrictions on travel, who he can associate with, and what activities he can engage in, which could seriously impact any attempt to restart his music career. More importantly for Bortlen's future in the streets, his admission of guilt to gang-related charges could result in ongoing police scrutiny and restrictions on who he can be around during his probation. In the world of hip-hop, where collaborations and networking are essential for making it, these limitations could prove devastating to any comeback attempt. But the implications for Melly are much more immediate and potentially fatal. Legal experts who've been studying similar cases recognize that Bortlen's cooperation represents a potential kill shot to Melly's defense strategy.
But that shit ain't easy when you looking at all that time. 16 years is long too, but that's better than life. The only thing bad about Bort is I think he been out on bail the whole time. So he really ain't got no time served. If he was in the same time Melly been in, he would have had to do like 10 years.
The survival mathematics that drove Bortlen's decision highlight the impossible choices facing co-defendants in high-stakes criminal cases. The commentary from hip-hop personalities and legal experts reveals the brutal calculations that defendants gotta make when facing potential life sentences.
In case number 19-1871 CF10A, they're going to null process or drop counts 1 and 2, both first-degree murder charges. Okay? And in exchange for that, as to counts 3 and 4, in that case, the accessory after the fact to murder in the first degree, you're going to plead no contest to both of those. And as to the 4 counts in case number 23-10643 CF10A, you're going to plead no contest to all 4 of those counts.
The prosecution's willingness to drop first-degree murder charges against Bortlen signals their confidence in their case against Melly. By securing cooperation from the alleged getaway driver and accomplice, they potentially gained access to first-hand accounts of the planning, execution, and cover-up of the murders. The broader implications for the hip-hop community can't be understated. This case become a lightning rod for discussions about loyalty, survival, and the complex relationship between artistic expression and criminal justice. The use of Melly's song Murder on My Mind as potential evidence sparked widespread debate about whether rap lyrics should be admissible in court.
And the shocking part isn't just the deal, it's the timing. With Melly's trial being one of the most high-profile cases in hip-hop history, offering YNW Bortlen the way out feels like a major play for the prosecution.
Legal experts recognize that this case could set precedents for how prosecutors approach similar cases involving multiple defendants and alleged gang activity. The success of plea deals and securing cooperation against high-profile defendants could encourage similar strategies in future cases involving hip-hop artists. The timing of Melly's retrial, now pushed back until January 2027, adds another layer of complexity to the whole situation. Melly gonna have spent nearly 8 years in custody by the time his case reaches resolution, a delay that raises serious questions about his constitutional right to a speedy trial. His new legal team, led by Drew Findling, indicated they're gonna file motions challenging these delays.
People see YNW Bortlen as somebody who's been quiet for too long, and they believe that he'll flip on Melly to save himself. And others say that he ain't gonna tell, that YNW brotherhood runs too deep. You feel what I'm saying? No matter what deal is on the table.
The cultural implications of this case extend way beyond the legal proceedings. In hip-hop culture, the concept of snitching or cooperating with law enforcement carries enormous social stigma. Bortlen's decision to accept a plea deal and provide a proffer sparked intense debate within the community about the boundaries of loyalty and self-preservation. The economic implications are equally significant. The YNW brand, which once represented one of hip-hop's most promising up-and-coming collectives, been irreparably damaged by these proceedings. Melly's inability to capitalize on the peak of his fame due to his incarceration cost him millions in potential earnings. Meanwhile, the ongoing legal costs for both defendants likely depleted significant financial resources. The psychological toll on both men can't be underestimated. Melly spent his entire adult life behind bars, missing crucial developmental years while facing the constant possibility of execution. His claims of harsh treatment in custody, including alleged isolation and denial of adequate legal access, paint a picture of a young man under enormous psychological pressure. For Bortlen, the decision to cooperate with prosecutors likely represents one of the most difficult choices of his life. The social consequences of being perceived as someone who cooperated could follow him long after his release from prison, potentially affecting his relationships, career prospects, and standing within the hip-hop community. Looking toward the future, Melly's retrial in January 2027 gonna be one of the most closely watched criminal proceedings in recent memory. The prosecution, armed with Bortlen's cooperation and years to refine their strategy, likely gonna present an even stronger case than they did in 2023. The defense, led by experienced attorney Drew Finland, gonna need to find ways to counter this additional evidence while maintaining Melly's claims of innocence. Like this video? Don't forget to explore more similar content through the suggested cards on your screen.
Wow, man, that's crazy. I never in my life heard of a jury of 12. All you need is 8. All you need is 8 people and you gone. I never heard of that. See, that's how you learn things, man. That's crazy. That is crazy. Hey, I'm gonna get on up out of here, man. Hey, y'all take it light, take it slow. Tell them Uncle Mike told you so. Peace out.